Good morning from Gold Mine Trail Greenhouse. As promised, I'm going to do a quick review of the Chinese diesel heater that I have in our greenhouse. So the diesel heaters were designed by the Germans at the end of World War II. Their patent wore off, and so now there are plenty of companies overseas that are making the Chinese diesel heaters. So this is what a standalone unit looks like. They call it a separated unit. This is just one brand, Vevor. It has inside, it has a motherboard, it has a glow plug. These can be mounted in any position that lets the glow plug be to the top. In other words, you can put it down flat like this, or you can mount it to a wall as long as the glow plug is facing up. You do not want to mount it like that. On the bottom, you've got a fuel intake for the diesel. You've got an intake and an exhaust as this burns. So as this burns, when this is running, these fins here inside the combustion chamber heat up. It has a fan that turns on and blows the heat through. You can get some tubing. It will run to various locations with the diffuser. You can point it up, you can point it down. Your intake, what draws the air in, has got configuration like this. Also has a silencer if you're worried about the noise that goes on it. And that's the way I run mine inside the heater. So these heaters come with your exhaust tubing, which goes out the wall. There's a plate. If you're mounting it to a combustible surface, this plate gives you a little bit of space there. It comes with the wiring loom, instructions, and it comes with a motherboard, or actually a control board, and a Bluetooth remote control. This is all plug and play. Everything plugs in. So from this display board, you can set your temperature parameters. So these units, when they are called for heat, the glow plug internally will glow. It'll heat up. It'll start, the fuel pump will start ticking, drawing fuel from your reservoir. Many of these include a reservoir. This is a 10-liter. That fitting in the bottom is what they comes with it. That can be mounted anywhere. We'll see in a little later on video number 2, or part 2, we'll see how we have mine set up in the greenhouse. I have mine plugged into a 15-gallon poly drum. 15 gallons is just big enough for me to take the drum out, go fill it up, and then wrestle it back into the greenhouse without killing myself. So when these call for heat, they'll start blowing the heat. There's 10 speeds to these, so you'll hear it kind of ramp up. It reminds me of a little bit of a jet engine as it's ramping from speed 1 all the way to 10. Once the interior temperature is reached, as programmed on the control panel, this will then idle down to the absolute lowest speed and just sit there and chug. Now, as you take a look at this fuel line and this fuel pump, you can probably imagine that there's not a whole lot of heating oil or diesel making its way through that. That's correct. That's why these heaters are so efficient. A lot of them advertise that you can heat 24 hours on a medium setting and use a couple of liters, and that is entirely correct. These things are very efficient. So we'll go ahead and button this up, and then we'll take a quick walk out to the greenhouse, and you can kind of see how I've got mine set up. Now let me just talk real quick also. I mentioned that these things never really shut off. They just idle down to their lowest setting. With the key fob, or if you get one of the ones that are Bluetooth enabled, you are actually able to monitor and shut the stove or the heater off from the remote fob or from your smartphone. Downside to that is you almost always have to kind of be around to monitor it. There are, to my knowledge, two people that make accessories for this, for lack of a better term. One of them is called Afterburner. Gentleman in Australia, Ray Jones, makes actually a replacement control board that has a external temperature probe. When that external temperature probe reaches your set temperatures, it'll idle the engine down, let it cool off completely before shutting it off. That's the important part. You don't want to just disconnect these from power, because that aluminum heat exchanger that I showed you in there, if it's still really hot and you just shut all power to it and it turns off the fan, then you could have a little bit of a meltdown in there. The other gentleman is in the United States. He makes a product called Burrick. So he has a fob or a remote that clones to yours. He's got a motherboard, or excuse me, not a motherboard. He's got a controller that is controlled by his key fob. There again, that'll also give you a set of temperature parameters to control, and then you can control it. Once you have it set on the control board, it'll remember those temperatures, and then you can leave it unattended. You don't have to be in the greenhouse at that point. So as mentioned, I run the Afterburner. They are a little harder to get now because of the tariffs, but Ray's product is excellent. I have not had firsthand knowledge of Bowrix, but from all the reviews I've seen, it's a very good product too. But both of those will accomplish the same thing. They will let your heater actually come to temperature, to the temperatures that you set, cool itself down, and then go into a standby mode. So stick around and we'll go see how we've got mine set up in the greenhouse.